Chapter 8, Lesson 1, finding the volume of a cylinder. To find the volume of a cylinder, the formula that you will use is V equals pi times the R squared times the H. Okay, the pi symbol, that's our pi key on our calculator. R stands for the radius of a circle. Radius is the halfway marking across the circle from the center of the circle to one of its edges. And H stands for the height of the cylinder. Okay, so as you look here in our example, the radius of the circle, is 5, and the height of the cylinder is 22. So when we talk about squaring something, we know that this is, okay, the x squared button. The x with the little 2 number up to the right is our squared button, okay? And then, so in order to do this, we take the information from the problem and just substitute it into our formula. So again, our formula is V equals the pi button times the radius squared times the height. We would take the information in and we would substitute it in again. Again, the radius is 5 and the height of the cylinder is 22. Okay, and when you plug this whole thing into the calculator, you hit the pi button times 5x squared times 22. Okay, and when you do that, if the question says to leave it in terms of pi, you would leave it as 550 times pi. Or if the answer says round it to the nearest percentage, okay, then it would be 1,727.9. Now, if the question says specifically to leave your answer in terms of pi, then all you would do in this problem is you would multiply 5x squared times 22, and then you would get that gives you 550, and you would just leave pi at the end of 550. Very similar to how when we were solving equations, we would leave x at the end of the number because for that multiplication purposes. Okay, if the answer says to round it to the nearest hundredths or tenths place, then you would multiply everything in the equation, including the pi button, and that's how you would get 1,727.9. Okay, and just a couple of vocabulary terms. Again, the radius is from the center of it to the edge of the circle. Again, it goes halfway across. So it goes halfway across the circle, touching one edge to the center. If they said a diameter is all the way across through the center of the circle. So another way of putting it is the radius. Okay, the radius is halfway, the diameter is all the way across the circle. All right, so let's try some of these. Okay, so again, we remember that our formula, V equals pi times R squared times H. Okay, so for these first 4, we're going to leave them in terms of pi. So in terms of pi, okay, as you can see, this is a diameter because it goes all the way across the circle. So, and if we want the radius, it only goes halfway. So halfway across the circle, if all the way across is 10, then our radius is 5. Okay, so we substitute into our formula. Pi times 5 squared times the height, which is 6. And again, we're leaving it in terms of pi. So the only thing that we want to multiply is 5 squared times 6. So 25 times 6 would be 150. And that would be 150 times pi. That would be the answer in terms of pi. Okay, so again, V equals, so again, we have a diameter all the way across. So if the diameter is 14, so halfway across from 14, if 14 is all the way across, 7 would be halfway. So we would have V equals pi times 7 squared times 11. And again, we're leaving it in terms of pi. So we would have 7 times x squared times 11 equals 539. And that would be 539 pi. Okay, next one, V equals. Now this time it only goes across halfway across the circle, so that is the radius. So V equals pi times 9 squared times 4. Plug that into your calculator. And you get 324 times pi, or 324 pi would be the volume in terms of pi. Okay, and last, V equals pi times 2.1 squared times 4.2. When you plug that into your calculator, V equals 18.522 times pi. Again, so that's leaving the answer in terms of pi. Okay, so the Jones family is considering 2 different size swimming pools. Pool A has a diameter, okay, has a diameter Pool A has a diameter of 12 feet and a depth of 4 feet. And pool B has a radius of 7 feet and a depth of 3 feet. Which pool would hold less water? Okay, so again, our formula, V equals pi times the radius squared times the height. So this time we're going to actually find the actual amount of water that each pool will hold. So pool A, V equals, now it says the diameter is 12, so that means that the radius is halfway across of 12, so that would be 6. So V equals pi times 6 squared times 4. And when you punch that whole thing into the calculator, so you would get 144 pi, which would equal 452 0.389, so it would be 452.39. Okay. So that's how much water pool A holds. For pool B, we have V equals pi times, now this says the radius, which is 7, times the height of the pool, which is 3. So V equals 147 pi. Which would equal 461.814. So 461.81. So as you can see, which pool will hold less water? Again, be careful, make sure you read these questions carefully, because a lot of people would think that pool B, to answer the question, holds more water, but the question said which one holds less water. So the answer to that, pool A holds less water. Okay, very good. Okay, so one more time. So our formula for finding volume of a cylinder, V equals pi times the radius squared times the height of the cylinder. Okay, so that brings us to the end of our first lesson for chapter 8. Again, finding the volume of a cylinder. Okay, and again, on that formula, pi times the radius squared times the height of the cylinder. Again, so go ahead and attempt the checkpoint. And as always, thank you for watching our videos, and we'll see you next time.